Hello.
Hey,
Hey, how are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Fine. So thank you for accepting the interview.
Yeah, no problem. I forgot about it, but it's good that you reminded me.
So my first question is, how are you? I'm not sure what you are able to do just now. I think you had an intelligent lockdown, no? In Holland.
Yes, that's correct. So, the bars were closed, and a lot of things were closed. The schools, university, but still, indeed, some things were still. I mean, you still to the parks or go out for a walk, but you just have to keep 1.5 meter distance. So it's kind of it's not completely shut down. It's not like some countries you could only leave the house for the groceries, but it's not that strict. That's correct. Yeah.
But do you think it was a good decision or not? Because I think the whole almost the rest of Europe was in the total lockdown, and I think your government decided another way. Why do you think, was it good? Was it a good strategy or a little bit risky?
Well, it worked out. So of course the thing that everybody was paying attention on was the IC beds and whether they were full and whether you could still receive enough people and take care of them in the hospitals, and that worked out. The IC beds peaked very, very early on, and I think as we're learning more and more right now about the science behind the spread of the coronavirus, the most dangerous thing is really the large events such as festivals or when big groups come together. But like the more subtle things, especially outside, are less risky. So it worked out. We had enough IC beds. I think we had soon after we peaked, we had more than double the amount of IC beds that we needed. So it worked out. Yeah.
What do you think? Why do you think they just only there or not? There are other countries, but why Holland, decided this to do? Because the Dutch people are more responsible, or the health system is better, or what do you think?
It's really hard to guess. Actually, I don't know how these decisions come about. I think maybe the Dutch are sometimes pretty down to earth, like not very dramatic. So if there's a pandemic, it's not that we all completely panic and want to shut down everything. But I mean, I'm not saying that we were better, but it worked out. Yeah.
We never know, no, because maybe there are another waves and so on, no.
Yes, definitely, yeah. So, but it seems like they're really paying attention also to that. Yeah.
Did you fear in some point, or were you always chilled, or
about the coronavirus itself?
Yeah,
I've never been very scared, me personally. I mean, it's also if you look at the sort of the risks. I think the risk of dying from corona crisis is probably less than me dying in a car accident for a young person. But it has been sort of hard to completely reorganize my life with all my lectures from university online and be having to close my restaurant. So it's been a huge challenge to kind of adapt to a completely turned around society. But in terms of the health, like for instance, my sister got the coronavirus as one of the first 30 or something in the Netherlands, and for her it was just like a bad fever for a week or so, and after that she actually felt she was probably immune, so she felt stronger after that. So yeah, in terms of health, me personally, I've not really feared. No.
And I wanted to interview you because we met in COP25,
Yes.
and that just the same place they converted into a hospital like
Yes.
2 or 3 months later. So it was very curious. Do you draw some, because the COP25, the solution was a little bit frustrating, no? Also, for example, for the young people. So do you see some parallels between the climate change COP25 and now this pandemic?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of interesting thoughts to be had there. What like the relationship between this pandemic and climate change and the climate movement. So there's a couple of things. Of course, the first thing that I noticed was that there was a lot of attention for climate change. It was really the momentum building up before the pandemic, but then when the pandemic hit, there was a lot less attention for it. So that is one effect that there is. But on the other hand, of course, the fact that large parts of the economy have shut down, that also means that we're polluting less right now. And I'm very interested just to see what is going to happen now, because of course we are in a major crisis right now, and usually crises are really a moment of change for history. So maybe this is going to be the moment that the climate crisis will be sort of forgotten temporarily, or forgotten, not getting enough attention anymore because of the corona crisis. Or it could also happen that somehow this corona crisis leads to more climate action, maybe because people find out that they might not need so much and can live more simply, or because we're using less airplanes, or because we see how we actually can, if we really want to and have sort of a decisive government, we can actually change the economy entirely if we want to. So it could be also be an inspiration for the climate movement.
And because you have, what do you think is a good thing for the environment and what not so good? Because there's less pollution, but you have more plastic waste and things like this, no?
Okay, yeah. So the plastic waste, I'm less worried about in terms of all the. Like the plastic is often a very visible problem, but in terms of the damage it does to the environment, other problems like climate change or biodiversity losses is even much bigger. So, but in terms of the bad things, I think is mainly that it just takes away the attention towards the problem. Like we're right now solving the pandemic crisis, so there's not a lot of political or activist attention towards solving the climate crisis, even though the climate crisis will be even much worse than the corona crisis. So that is a bad thing, I guess, but it could also lead to the society learning that we can actually change our economy.
My question is, Amsterdam, I read that they have like a doughnut economy plan. Yes. Can you explain what it is?
Yeah, definitely. So that's it's actually an idea from Kate Raworth, as an economist in Oxford, and she had this idea of the doughnut economy, and she visualizes the economy as a donut, and the inner circle are sort of the boundaries within which you need to keep to be able to have good human rights, so good health, good education, these kind of things, and the outer boundary of the donut, those are the planetary boundaries. So, for instance, climate change, but also biodiversity loss, or all kinds of other types of pollution. And she says the goal is not like in normal school of economics to always grow your economy and solve all problems through economic growth, but the goal is to stay within these two borders, so to stay within the donut in all different facets. That's her idea, and it's really nice that indeed that the municipality of Amsterdam has now decided to work together with her to make policy. So I'm curious whether it really leads to actual tangible different decisions, but at least it's a nice idea.
Yeah, my question is, how do you use it practically? You know? Yeah,
exactly. That's a very good question. But of course, I mean, it could lead to different decision as a municipality, for instance, to what kind of permits you allow for how you build your buildings, and that they have to also, I don't know, have been built with more sustainable materials, or it could lead to less focus on economic growth, but more on growing your trees. I mean, so there's all kinds of decisions that you could make differently if you have a different mindset. So I think that's really it. It's not necessarily a very clear policy that you have coming out of this donut economics, but it's just really a different mindset of what is your goal. And that's really good to have a goal that is in line with what is good for humanity on the planet.
Now, I have to ask you something, but it's always, if you speak about Amsterdam and so, it's like the cannabis and the cannabis stores.
Oh, yes.
They were like closed and then they were open. Why are they so important? These themes for the Dutch people of Amsterdam.
What?
Why is it so important?
Well, I don't know. It's not necessarily. I believe like here, marijuana is legalized in the Netherlands, but I believe not more people smoke here than in other countries. So it's not necessarily much more important. But of course, the thing was that half an hour before all the restaurants, bars, and also cannabis shops had to close, it was announced half an hour before. So some people, they like to buy cannabis regularly, so they couldn't plan, and suddenly they couldn't get it anywhere unless you had to buy it from the street somewhere. So of course, for some people that is a problem, and then the government decided that you could open again, but then only to pick it up and not sit inside.
And now you have...
No, it's just a small thing. Wait, I'll close my window for the sound.
Don't worry.
Okay.
No, it's always, when you read like Amsterdam, so it's one of the themes.
Yeah.
I'm not sure why, but it's always there. So
it's very much a view of foreigners on Amsterdam. Like here, it's not really a big thing, but it's very much a tourist thing.
Yeah, no. So can you tell me, you have the Ceuvel that I read a little bit about it. Can you explain me what it is and what this crisis means now for you?
Yeah, sure. So the Ceuvel, it used to be a shipyard. So it was a small shipyard where ships were repaired, and it was abandoned about 20 years ago, and was an abandoned, polluted piece of land, which we have been able to temporarily redevelop into this completely circular cultural incubator. So it has old houseboats that would otherwise have been waste, and they've been put onto the land to make offices for entrepreneurs and cultural and artists. And then also these boats have been equipped with all kinds of technologies that make them self-sufficient. And we have plants that purify the polluted soil. And then I started our restaurant there, which is a restaurant with a terrace at the water side. And it's also completely built from reused materials. And we work with local farmers, and we have all kinds of innovative meat replacements, and we have a greenhouse on top of the roof where we grow our own fresh herbs and lettuce. So that is so it's kind of a showcase and platform for sustainability.
And what does this crisis mean for me? I suppose you had to close, and how will you open again?
So we indeed had to close, and that was kind of stressful. So we also heard it a half an hour before we had to close. And of course, then you wonder, like, okay, are we going to get bankrupt? Because the bills will keep on coming, but there will be no revenue, and you want to pay your staff. But now, I mean, we've been able to make it work with some of the help of some government regulations, and then also we were able to sell some vouchers in advance that people will be able to use later when they eat, and that's how we were able to make it. And actually, today is the day that we can open again. So the 1st of June, we slowly start to take the first steps in the Netherlands to open up again. So the cafes and bars can be open for up to 30 people, and then also the terraces can be open again, but then with 1.5 meter distance between all the tables and only 2 people per table. So we have to, we can't let as much people in as normal, and we have to have somebody at the front of the terrace to let people in when they reserve and ask them whether they're ill. So there's a lot of extra regulations, but we can carefully open again. So it seems like we survived the crisis until now. Yeah. And then there's also an extra thing which we have been able to do is we have been able, because of course we were empty for a while, and there was this whole group of refugees in the south of Amsterdam, and we've been able to, together with the municipality, sort of give them the space. So they've been staying at our place while we were closed, and now we've worked with the municipality for a better solution to them. So we also were able to use the place while we were closed. Yeah.
Good. So do you, my question is, because we also wanted to ask for a solution. What solution do you see, first solution? What solution do you see for the now with the new normality for the climate change, or for the battle against climate change?
Okay, yeah. So I think we simply really have to continue the fight and keep on pressuring our governments to enact climate action. For instance, I'm paying close attention to the European Green Deal. So they're trying to, despite the whole Corona crisis, just to continue the legislation, and we have to make sure that it's ambitious as possible, as we used to, because the climate crisis is still here, and it's still as urgent as it was, or even more urgent as it was before the Corona crisis. So I think we just have to carry on as a climate movement, and I think we can actually use this moment, this pivotal moment in which we have to rebuild our entire economy and rebuild it in a way that is sustainable. So, for instance, when companies or large corporations ask for government help, it should be on conditions for a good green plan. So these kind of things to make a green recovery.
Last thing is, what do you see positive out of this crisis?
Yeah, so I think there's, of course, I mean it's a bad thing, and I think I feel for the people that have died because of the Corona crisis and or lost family members. So that's the first thing I would say, and then it's also really hard for schools that had to close down, and for all the entrepreneurs that had to close down their business or face bankruptcy. So in general, I think it's been a bad thing, but of course everything has a silver lining, and I think for me at least it has also been sort of a moment to reflect. Everything slows down a bit, and suddenly there's not anymore the rush of going from appointment to bar to going from here and there, cycling across all the city, but actually being at your own place reading a book. So it's maybe a moment to reflect upon what is going on and how your life is doing. So that brings some peace. And then again, it could be a moment that we also could reflect upon how we have organized our society and build a recovery that is more just and green than the economies that we used to have.
So thank you very much.
Yeah.
And I hope we see each other in the COP26. I'm not sure.
Yeah, it's cancelled. It's cancelled. You have to wait another year. Yeah.
So we will see. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you too.
Bye.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.
Met een beetje kijkplexiglas achter de bar. En een super sexy barman.